Hello everyone, today I'm going to be doing my Saw films ranking. I've just got done watching and reviewing Spiral over the past week. So today I'm going to be ranking all the movies against each other, all 9 of them. These are just my opinions, so don't beat me up for them. It did take me a little bit of time to decide on my exact list because some of the films are very hard to separate, but I've done it now. I'm very happy with my final order, so let's get into it. And to begin with, I guess, we'll find out what is my 9th and therefore least favourite movie in the Saw franchise. So this is a most unfortunate start. The brand new movie, the comeback movie, coming bottom of the pile, but I honestly didn't enjoy this. I don't think it works as a Saw film. It's too disconnected from the other 8 films for that, but at the same time, I don't think it works as its own detective story either. I heard one review describe this as like a modern day Seven. Honestly, this film is not even in the same ballpark of quality of David Fincher's film. The story is just too weak. The ending is an absolute mess, but I've just got done doing a 15-minute review on this film in my other video, so if you want to hear me break down this film more, then go check that out. But sadly, this has come bottom. I will say, though, that I almost put this one more rung up the ladder because the film we're about to get to is also very, very bad. It was a close run thing today for the bottom spot. So here's the one which got away with it then, I guess, although it's still not a very good film. I don't like the resolution to the whole Hoffman, Jill Tuck storyline. Gordon's return makes no sense. There are just about enough good traps in the thing, though, for me to enjoy it more than Spiral. But I definitely think that by the time they got to this one, they were totally running out of energy. I mean, this was the 7th film they'd done in 7 years, and you can tell that it's starting to take its toll on them by this point because, bar 1 or 2 good traps throughout the runtime, this is just a really poor film and a weak way to end the franchise, or it would have been if they hadn't gone on a little bit further. But the good news is, this is now the end of the bad films on today's list. We're about to go into the very good ones. Saw has a good ratio of good to bad films, I think. 7 out of 9. And a week ago, I would have said 7 out of 8, sadly, but not to worry. So let's find out what then is my number 7. I will wager that this is probably the biggest surprise for people today, that this has only come 7th, because I know it's a highly beloved film, the original, but even though I enjoyed it the first time I watched it, I don't find it very rewatchable once you know all the twists. And for me, rewatchability is an important thing when it comes to my horror movies. I don't like all the stuff in the bathroom in this film. The acting is really bad. I can sort of forgive Lee Whannell because he's more of a writer, director than an actor. As for Carrie Elwes, who's more of a seasoned pro at this type of thing, I think Lee Whannell just drags him down in this film, and he's bad as well. The dialogue's not very well written anyway. There are a number of lines which probably looked good on paper, but then they're just not very good when they're said out loud. The dialogue is much better once you get to the second film and beyond. And the rest of the film, outside of the bathroom, looks quite cheap as well. This was a very low budget independent film. I really enjoyed it the first time I watched it. I must stress that. I thought it was really, really cool. It made me totally want to go and watch Saw 2, but I really struggled to go back to it, in all honesty. That's why it's this low on the list today. When I did my recent marathoning through the Saw films to get ready for Spiral, I actually skipped past this one this time and just went straight for Saw 2. Saw 4 is fine. I really enjoy it. I think it's really clever, the stuff they came up with in this film to keep the franchise going, because they could have easily ended it after Saw 3. So why do I only have it number 6 then? Well, there are some unnecessary flashbacks involving Jigsaw, stuff to do with the baby. I didn't need any more reasons as to why Jigsaw does his games. We already dealt with all that in Saw 2. And the main character isn't the best. He's not as charismatic as Eric Matthews, say, from Saw 2. I would rather Dina Meyer, the female cop who dies in Saw 3, have been kept alive and been given her own game here in Saw 4. I think she would have been a more compelling lead character than the one we get. But on the whole, I still really enjoy Saw 4. I think it's a good one. They're all really good from this point forwards. This one's really cool. Watching it felt so fresh, having not had a Saw film for so many years at the time. I like the storyline. It's very hard to guess the twists. It's very cleverly written, I think. I like the barn slash silo setting. It's a good way of giving you more of the same, but doing it in a very unique location for the movie. It's easily believable that these games and traps could be going on out in the country somewhere in a place like this, and there's going to be nobody around to provide rescue. So yeah, there's not much that I could really fault about this one. I think a lot of the traps were very good. It was very hard to guess what was going to happen next. I don't know why this one has a little bit of a dodgier reputation than some of the films before it, because I think this is just top-notch Saw. And let me just add that personally, I really tend to prefer the Saw films where people have to work together as a group in the main game. I love me some group Saw rather than when people are just walking through themselves and doing their own traps and stuff. So that definitely helps this film from my point of view. I love the main game in this one. It's so cool. There are so many brilliant traps and situations the main characters have to get themselves out of. I like the Strom Hoffman stuff as well. The way Strom escapes from the water box at the beginning is really clever. And his ending, where he gets crushed in that room, it sends a chill up my spine every time I get to that point in the movie and I know what's coming. It's definitely one of the best traps in the whole series for me. I can think of one way this film could have been improved. I know it's not one of the more popular sequels in general. I think they should have spent more time on the main game developing some of those characters, maybe given us some more backstory on the mysterious fire situation that they're all connected to. And I think they could have taken out some of the Hoffman Jigsaw flashbacks. I think there are one too many of those, maybe two or three too many of those actually. So the balance of the two separate stories going on in this film that wasn't quite right. We needed more main game, slightly less Strom and Hoffman, but I still count this as one of my favourite Saw films. I will absolutely defend it to the hilt. I think it's really good. So here we have probably the last time in the series that it feels like you're watching a natural story play out. They did so much great work here with the character arcs. I like all the resolutions to the main villains. So I think John Kramer's ending is very satisfying. So is Amanda's. I like Jeff and Lynn's game as well. There's just a real high quality to the writing in this, so much emotional depth. It feels like the writers have tried to make more than just, a bog standard horror sequel. This one feels very, very different to the first two. One thing that struck me when I was rewatching it just a week or so ago is how violent and nasty this particular one is right from the first minute when Eric Matthews is bashing his leg in, and it carries on most of the way through. The rat trap is just brutal, and we get more Matthews and his leg at some point. The brain surgery scene, which doesn't freak me out as much as I thought it was going to when I was reading about this film in the build up to going to the cinema to see it. If the series had ended at this point, it would have been an absolutely terrific final film. I think they really did put the effort in to try and make this one a very special film, and they pretty much succeeded for the most part. But I have two films which are above it, nevertheless, so let's find out what's my number two. For a sixth film in 6 years, this one is absolutely terrific. I think the health insurance angle fits perfectly into the Saw universe. Tobin Bell's flashbacks feel very natural here, unlike in part 4 and 5, where it felt like they were just shoehorning them in just to get him into the movie. Watching this health manager guy navigate these games in part 6 is absolutely fascinating. And some of the traps are brilliant. The acid thing, awesome. The carousel is my favorite trap in the whole series. It's not just a great idea, it's also used perfectly. I mean, when that last guy is spinning around and he knows he's going to die and he's saying stuff like, "You look at me when you're killing me," it's really emotional to me. And this is just some random douche who hasn't really been in the movie up to this point, and he's probably a bit of an arsehole if he works for this company in the manner that he does, but the scene is just played out brilliantly. I'm never bored watching this movie for a second. It gets the balance right between how much it shows of the Hoffman Jill Tuck stuff and how much it shows of the main game. that balance was a little bit off in part 5, as much as I enjoyed that one, but part 6 is just an astonishingly good Saw film, given the fact that we're at the 6th entry. It's absolutely terrific. But it's not my favourite Saw film of all time. Let's now find out what that one is. Yep, Saw 2 is today's winner. This was the film which made me a massive fan of the series. My first Saw experience was the original, which I borrowed on DVD around about the time that Saw 2 was showing in cinemas. And as soon as I'd watched the original film and seen that twist at the end, I immediately started looking to see what time I could go and watch Saw 2 at the cinema. I went with a couple of friends and we all really enjoyed it. Even though the two friends I was with aren't really into horror movies, we all enjoyed it to the point where we went straight to a bar and just sat down with loads of beers and talked about the film for hours of, how great all the twists were and stuff, and what could possibly happen in Saw 3 now that Amanda was outed as Jigsaw's accomplice, etc., etc. So it was just one of those great cinema experiences that you never forget. This is as close to a masterpiece film as this series gets for me. I think the main twist is absolutely awesome. Jigsaw's interactions with Eric Matthews, you can't take your eyes off them. The main game is fantastic. It descends into such chaos with some characters not even playing their own games. They've got a great villain in Xavier. I like the traps. It's just absolutely awesome. This is, for me, the best Saw film ever, and I think it probably always will be. Saw 2, mwah. So that's it then for today's ranking. If you ever see me do another Saw ranking, it will mean that they brought another one out, and I'm not sure if I want that at this point, having just put Spiral right at the bottom, but there we go. So, hope you enjoyed that. I'll be back soon with another video. Till next time, cheerio, bye-bye.